Joining me today, Dr. Denise Pope, a senior lecturer at the Stanford University Graduate School of Education and co-founder of Challenge Success. At Stanford, Denise is specialized in student engagement, curriculum studies, qualitative research methods, and service learning. Denise co-founded Challenge Success, a nonprofit that provides services to schools and families, creating balanced and academically fulfilling lives for the kids. Denise has authored a book, Doing School: How We Are Creating a Generation of Stressed Out, Materialistic, and Miseducated Students, and co-authored a book, Overloaded and Underprepared Strategies for Stronger Schools and Healthy, Successful Kids. Denise is a three-time recipient of the Stanford University School of Education Outstanding Teacher. Denise, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
I want to start our discussion with this book which I read, and I went through an introduction page. So the introduction is like this: 6:15 a.m., wake up and ready for the school and grab a quick breakfast. 7 a.m., walk to bus stop and catch the bus at 7:10 a.m. 7:15 to 3 p.m., attend various schools activities. 3 p.m., 3:45, the service club meeting after school, and 4 to 6 p.m. swim team practices, and 6:45 p.m. arrive at home, shower, dinner, 3 to 4 hours homework, and 11:30 p.m. bedtime. So this is the schedule of a high achieving high school students. So my question is that, especially in Bay Area, it's very high pressure culture. How do you raise a healthy child under this such a competitive environment?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question, right? I mean, the most important thing is that schedule isn't going to work for anybody. No. So you're not going to be healthy. If you're not getting the sleep you need, you're not going to be able to function at a high level as an athlete, as a scholar, as a human being. You're going to be more likely to get sick. It's going to take you longer to fight off the illness. And what we know is sleep deprivation is linked to depression and anxiety. So it may be that a kid who's really sleep deprived is going to end up depressed or anxious, and then that leads to a whole host of other issues. So the bottom line is health has to come first. And as a parent or as a teacher, you have to make sure that the kids are not overscheduled. I mean, that's one of the reasons why we put it in the title, right? They're not overscheduled so that they can get to bed on time. And it's, you know, you hear people say, oh, I didn't sleep a lot in college, I was fine. Well, that's college. This is starting elementary, middle, and high school when they're still going through puberty. Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, that was going to my next question, that as a parent, from parents' point of view, what can you do to comfort your child who are already going through a homework stress, all the academic stresses you have it? How do you, I mean, pretty much it's from parents' point of view, what can you do? I mean, the kids, they have homework. I mean, there's nothing you can do, right, over there. So as a parent's point of view, how do you comfort your child?
Right. So for the parent, you feel like you can't really control what goes on in school. You really don't have control over the homework. You do have control over the whole rest of the day, though. So if you are overscheduling your child into sports activities or drama or music, if they are on video games or computers and social media all the time, are they doing chores, right? There are really important things that as a parent you can control. You want your kid to go to bed. You want all of the phones and the technology out of the bedroom at night. You want them to do chores. The biggest thing we hear in my house, because I have 3 kids, is I can't do my chores, I have a test tomorrow, or I can't do my chores, I have too much homework. No, this is part of being a human being. If they don't know how to do chores now, they're not going to know how to do them when they're adults, and it's part of what you do as part of a family. So it turns out those are really important things for a parent to make sure they're not overscheduling their kid outside of school and giving them the proper home environment to raise a healthy child.
Okay. So now that we talk about parents, let's just talk about its Challenge Success, which you co-founded. And you must have co-founded you must have some reason behind it, or what's the mission of Challenge Success?
Sure. So Challenge Success is a nonprofit. It's associated with the Stanford Graduate School of Education, where I teach. Everything we do is research-based from Stanford research that we work with. So the mission behind it is that we saw kids who were not healthy, but who were also not engaged in school. Either they were very bored, right? Because school can be very monotonous and just give the kid the same thing over and over again. Or they were completely in over their heads and were struggling. Or it was just too much work, literally too much work squished into that little bit of time. So we decided to work with families and schools to give them research-based strategies and practical tools to make sure that the kids were healthy and engaged with learning. It turns out that's not easy. We've been doing this for about almost 15 years, and we've worked with over 150 schools across the United States, and we're really excited about some of the changes. We have schools that have really revamped their homework policies. I think the parents out listening would be very excited to hear that, without any suffering in terms of GPA or test scores or where the kids go into college. They've changed the schedules so that the traditional day that you read there, where they're going from class to class to class, that's actually turns out not the best way to teach. And we know more from neuroscience studies and how the brain works that that's not the best way to teach.
So despite of all your efforts, but still there are some schools, they are running traditional way, right?
Yes.
So how do you work with them? How do you change their minds? How do you bring change in policies, right? Because all the schools, they get funding from federal government and state government and everyone, right? And so they need to make sure that their kids are excelling and they show some performance, right?
Right.
So how do you bring balance? How do you convince the school or a district where you just tell them, look, change your schedule, just teach them less?
No, it's not that easy. It's
Yeah.
not that easy. So what we do, we have a very hands-on approach, and we have a school-by-school, district-by-district approach. We know what the federal laws are, and we can make sure that the schools are in compliance, but there are many things that you can do at your own local level. You would be surprised, especially in California, how much freedom you have, but also across the nation. You can change your schedule. You can change
You're talking about the class schedule.
the class schedule, the bell schedule.
Yeah.
You can change your testing, right? As long as you give those required for the state of California or the nation, it doesn't mean you have to give an exam every week. It doesn't mean you have to give a kid quizzes and tests. It turns out that's not the best way to find out, do they understand? So we work with the teachers, we work with the schools, we look at the homework policy, we look at how much they're covering. Now with the change to Common Core, you're not required to cover 100 million things, right? They're really focused on skill building. So it actually gives the freedom to the teachers, a lot more freedom to go deeper and make sure the students understand that. But we've got schools that are still working on, years ago, that old system of I've got to get through the textbook, by May.
So when you approach the schools and when you obviously give them some data, some scientific reasoning that why they should change the schedule, what are the benefits. So where does this research come from? Where do you get these data points?
Great question. So we actually have our own survey that we developed at Stanford. It's called the Stanford Survey of Adolescent School Experiences. We do it for middle school and high school, and we started tweaking it for lower school now too. We'll see how far down we go, but I think the lowest we've tried is third grade. So what we do is the students answer these questions online. There's about 180 questions, and it gives us a bunch of data. Are they engaged? Are they bored? Are they healthy? Are they sleeping? We ask about extracurricular activities outside of school. We give them a worry scale. What are they worried about?
So you ask actual students?
We are asking actual students. We've
That's good.
surveyed now over 100,000 students across the nation, public, private, Catholic schools, you name it. So we have a really good benchmark, and we report back to the school and say, look, these are your kids, and this is what they should be getting. They should be getting 9 hours of sleep. They should be engaged. They should be healthier, and they're not. Let us help you. Let us work with you. Send a team, come to our workshops, we'll give you a coach, we'll work with them over the course of a year, sometimes more, sometimes 2 or 3 years, depending on the change. And then we survey again. And we see the sleep has gotten better, or the engagement has gone up, or the cheating, which is rampant, has gotten better. And so we use that data along with national data and some of the experts at Stanford who study the neuroscience and how we learn together to make the change.
So how do you work with the parents? So obviously this is the one set of, you need the parents' cooperation also, right? Because school can change the policy at the same time. You need to convince the parent, because I know some parents, they just don't like the light schedule. They are just going to school and I know some of the in Bay Area, some of the parents, they say, look, there's no homework here. It's very light schedule. Why don't you just teach the kids more math and science.
Yes.
So how do you convince parents that elementary years, and we'll talk about it, that one of your statements that some of the elementary years, all the homeworks, it has no value here, right? That's what some of your research says, right?
Right. So the parents, this is an exact problem. We just had a school, very proud of this school. They worked very hard to change the homework policy, to allow kids more time to be kids, to have some playtime and some downtime after school, and to make sure they go to bed on time. The principal came to me the other day and said, "You're not going to believe this. The parents are buying workbooks outside of school to give to their kids. They don't understand." And I said, "Wait a minute, did you show our video? Did you have them do our workshops?" You have to do it in tandem. You have to educate the parents to understand the research behind the change as well, or they will fill that time.
So they will they'll try to become teacher, and they'll just teach their kids on their own.
And that's worse, right? That's worse because they're not trained to do this. But so we'd have workshops for parents, videos for parents, book clubs, communication, emails. We're really trying to get the parents to understand you are a very important piece of this equation. It's school and parent together for a healthy and engaged child.
So you said so far you've been here for like 15 years.
Yeah.
So can you show us some results? What's the ultimate impact? And do you have any statistics, any numbers that how many schools they have changed the policies, or how many schools they have improved their performance?
Yeah. So 150 schools have come through our program, and we would say 99% of those have done something, some policy change or schedule change. Maybe they looked at cheating and worked on changing how they do repercussions for that. Or they added more counselors and are paying more attention to the mental health. They have a wellness center now. So there's lots of different things that you can do when you come through. Of the schools that we've surveyed, we surveyed a pre, a post, and then 2 or 3 years later. We have a handful of schools that we look at. It's called our 3-year evaluation. Those schools, the sleep went up. The cheating went down. The engagement with learning, the kids, the motivation went up. The perception of adults who care about them went up. So we're seeing really great results, but it's not every school. It takes time. And it takes buy-in from the parents and the teachers too. The teacher can close the door and just keep teaching, right? So the principal doesn't have sole power. It has to be the whole team together working.
So Denise, where do you see the most challenge as far as our existing education system? Do you see some of the things which you really wanted to change and you could not do it? Obviously, especially in California, the public education systems, and when you compare with other states like Massachusetts and other states, California is lagging, right?
Yes.
Some of the schools. I'm not talking about all the schools. So where do you see there should be a radical change in the way we are teaching education, or the way schools are running the curriculum?
Right. Well, the reason why Massachusetts is doing so well is they've really put a lot of effort into their educational change and their curriculum change in particular, and how the teachers are teaching. So many of us grew up in countries, in the US too, where the teacher lectures, you take notes, you take an exam at the end of 2 weeks or 3 weeks, and then you move on to the next unit. It turns out that is one of the worst ways that you can teach a kid, that it's not going to stick, that it falls out of their brain as you move on to the next unit. And what do you do about the kids who don't do well in that unit? You're moving on. You're not taking care of those kids and helping them learn the material. If it was that important to teach, you want everyone to learn it and remember it. So it turns out a much better way to teach is through hands-on, project-based learning, simulations, much more like what we do in the real world, in the work world. You work cooperatively with others. There's very few things that people do completely alone and have a perfect result, right? So we have moved into what we call project and project-based, or more authentic learning in schools. And Massachusetts does this very well. And that's why the kids are doing so well on the exams, is they're really learning the material because they see the purpose, they see that they're doing it for a real reason, they see the relevance because it's a real project.
So you just reminded me, there's a school called Khan Lab School, or Khan School Lab.
Yeah.
Pretty much they go in the same concept where teachers and the students, they decide where the students is ready to go for the next level.
Right.
So if you know, let's say addition 3 + 2, if you know addition, let's just go to subtraction.
Right.
So, and that's how you excel. There is no grading systems. So is this the way you think the future of education should be?
I think so. The buzzword is called personalization.
Yeah.
So you can personalize it. Now, what I don't love, and Khan doesn't do this, but some other schools do, is they give you a playlist, and you are literally just sitting there with headphones on at a computer alone, going through to the next level, to the next level, to the next level. I don't like that.
Yeah.
They need to work together. They need to see the fruits of their labor. They need feedback from human beings and time to then revise. But they need to know how to write. They need to know how to communicate. They need to know how to collaborate. They need to know
social skills.
Yes, and if you just sit there with the playlist, that's not going to work either.
Right.
So I am a little worried about that trend that we're seeing a lot now because they need the social skills. Imagine a coworker who didn't learn any of that stuff. That would be a problem.
I want to show our viewers 3 videos, and these are the very short videos. The first video, let's just talk about engaging kids with learning. Let's just show the clip, and then we can talk more.
Okay.
How can we get kids more engaged with their education? I mean, this is one of those classic issues, right? You have a kid who doesn't like school, who thinks it's boring, who isn't into learning. What do? One thing you do is you find out what it is they love. Every kid has something that they love to do, that they're excited about, that makes them happy, whether that's music or art or science or space or dinosaurs, whatever it is. And you want to encourage them to follow that love. And you want to model what that looks like in a learning environment. You might want to get on the computer together and look up some questions about the topic that your kid loves. You have an older kid who only loves to skateboard. You point out there's a lot of physics and math involved in skateboarding. Let's talk about why you don't fall off, why you have the ramp built a certain way. And then you slowly move that over towards the school. And you work with one teacher or one class to get that kid motivated and excited. The way to get kids engaged in learning is to model that kind of learning in your home and work with the school to make sure that they're giving relevant lessons, that they're motivating kids with exciting and different kinds of topics, hands-on. What we say is voice and choice, where a kid gets to choose which of the 3 books to read or choose what they get to write their paper on. That's a way to help kids get engaged in school and to model it at your house.
You want these kids to get engaged, and then engagement, it looks like education starts at home. Many kids nowadays, what I see that they're just sitting in front of the TV, playing video games.
Absolutely. So, and I think a parent is feeling a little bit worried about how to do that, right? So your kid is playing video games after school all day. You know that that's not good, but you're not really sure what to do as a parent. First of all, we don't have to teach little kids how to play. Little kids know how to play. Sometimes they'd rather play with the box than the toy you give them in the box. As they get older, because of the school system and because of technology and video games and TV and you name it, this is slowly fading away. What we want is for kids to discover what it is that they like to do. So the most important thing as a parent.
Some kids, they may say that I just want to play. That's
I just want to play, and that's okay. But you don't. But not 6 hours of video games.
Right.
Go outside and play. Right. Go outside and create or do something, or create your own video game. Right. There are lots of games now where you are creating things, and that's exciting. So as a parent, we have a mnemonic aid that we say to parents. It's called PDF. Playtime, downtime, family time.
Sure.
You have to let your kid play. And I don't mean mindless video games. I mean go outside and play with kids, create their own games, even the old-fashioned arts and crafts or old-fashioned board games. We're seeing those fade away, and it turns out they're really important. That's how you learn communication skills. That's how you learn how to negotiate and bend rules and break rules and conflict resolution. So playtime, downtime, and family time are very important for kids' education.
The problem, no, I understand. The problem is that, let's say a kid is doing poor in, let's say, English or literature, right?
Yeah.
And you get this poor grading, and the parents will see that it's not doing good. So they will try to put this kid work harder rather than allowing that kid to go. I mean, that's kind of parental instinct, right? That, okay, now you are scored bad in literature, then no more playtime.
Right. And it's the exact opposite of what they should do.
And that's what you're saying, exactly opposite.
Right. So you have to get to the bottom of it. What is that grade really telling you? Are they bored? And that's why they have a bad grade. Is it too hard for them? Do they have some kind of reading, learning issue, right? As a parent, you have to get to the bottom of it. One thing we do know, and this is a good lead into the next video, is that reading for pleasure is absolutely connected to academic achievement. So the kid who's doing poorly in English, instead of saying more work and more workbooks, what you really want to do is get them excited about reading.
Right.
That's going to make them better in English in the long run.
So let's just go to the next video. That's kind of more interesting. This is about homework during elementary school.
There has been a lot of hubbub around homework these days. How much homework should my kid have? Does my kid have too much? How come they don't have enough? Here's the bottom line. There has been no research that shows any academic benefit to homework in the elementary years. There's no correlation between homework in the elementary years and future success for a kid. In fact, there's not even a correlation for homework in the elementary years and things like teaching the kid responsibility or teaching them how to take care of themselves and be responsible for their own things. There's no correlation between anything with elementary homework and the future. So what you want to do as a parent is encourage free reading. You want to encourage kids to pick what they want to read, love reading, enjoy it, and read regularly. There is a connection between free reading and doing better academically in future years. What do you do if your school has a lot of homework and your kid's in first grade or second grade? You don't want to see your kid coming home with more than about 10 minutes per grade level, if at all. And if that's happening, you have to be an advocate, and you've got to go and talk to the teacher and talk to the school and let them know that this is not working out at home.
So there is no benefit, no academic benefit in doing homework in elementary years. Explain to me a little bit further.
I'm not the only one saying this. There are many researchers who have studied this across the globe, and there literally is not a tie between doing those worksheets in first grade and second grade and future academic success. It's not connected. It's not the way to teach them. The most important thing is, in the elementary school years, a love of learning and a love of reading. That's all you really need. And so all these hours that these poor little kids are spending on these things, and parents, they just don't understand it, and teachers don't understand it. It turns out that when you're studying to be a teacher, one of the things that's almost never covered is this concept of homework. It's just considered a given. It's like, oh, well, it's always been, so we should, of course, have it. But as folks have been studying it, they realize there isn't a correlation. And if you are going to do it, it should be very, very, very short. It should be short, deliberate practice.
So that's going to bring me to our third video. That's about bringing this, the potential, the real potential. How do you bring it out? Let's just watch this video and then continue.
Parents always ask me, how do I know if my kid is reaching their potential? Or they usually say, I don't think my kid is reaching his or her full potential. What should I do about it? And this is a tough question because you don't know really what the full potential is. It's one of those things where someone might bloom in 10th grade. And up until 10th grade, they've been not doing well, not excited about school, kind of getting C's, maybe an occasional B. All of a sudden, they've got through puberty, they made it through the social issues, and they get excited about a subject. Someone might not bloom until college. Someone might think that they are a math science kid in second grade, and you do all this math and science, and they change their mind and become a theater arts kid when they hit high school. Here's the thing. You're not going to know when your kid is reaching his or her full potential. All you can do as a parent is love them unconditionally and give them the resources they need, that when they're ready to reach their full potential, they know you're behind them all the way. So allow them to be creative, allow them to take risks, allow them to do great in some classes and maybe not as great in others. Allow them to explore lots of different activities, and let them know that you love them no matter what, no matter who they are, no matter when they bloom. And that support is going to lead to a kid eventually reaching his or her full potential.
Loving kids unconditionally. Now that's a real good word. I mean, I agree, because that brings confidence to this to children, right? So is that what something you were trying to say here? Is that when you want to bring the full potential out of kids, no matter what their grade is, I think you need to just encourage them, raise the confidence level, and loving them unconditionally.
Yeah, I think one of the things we find in our research, it's astounding, the correlation, is if the kid feels that they are meeting their parents' expectations, they are healthier and they do better in school. So when they feel they're letting you down, and they can read your body language when they show you the report card, they listen to what you say to the relatives. Don't think that they don't know this. They know how you feel about them. Yeah. They need to hear, we love you no matter what. Even if you totally mess up on the test or miss the soccer goal or whatever it is, we love you no matter what. We have your back no matter what. And the most important thing to us is not where you go to college or what your GPA is. It's that you're a healthy, loving human being who enjoys what they do in life.
So let me throw a curveball here, that a kid is already doing he or she is already in her full potential, and all of a sudden that person grades are going down. Do you call that as a stress? Or
yeah, so if you see a change, I say this to parents of teenagers all the time, because teenagers are up, they're down, they're moody, right? If you see a change, a pretty big dramatic change that lasts over 2 weeks, a change in grades, a change in friends, really dramatic, a change in how they dress, a change in bedtime, whatever it is, over 2 weeks they don't want to get out of bed, you need to call the counselor or the pediatrician. Something's going on, and you know that in your gut. That's really important.
Okay, that's a good advice. So let me change subject to one of my favorite about these social issues, what I keep on talking with many schools, that why schools are not teaching about these social issues, global social issues, because this is the next generation, they need to face the social problems, right? So they are teaching math, science, English, and everything. That's great, but are we giving them enough information about social issues? So how do you bring awareness in kids, and the most that schools, I mean, they need to introduce that as a part of curriculum. I mean, there is a social study, but they talk about past. I'm interested in current and future. So how do you bring those changes?
Right, and by the way, the older kids know this, because on their phones they get Google News or whatever it is. So it's not like they're not aware, that who's president and.
But are they getting the right information about social issues?
Well, that's the key. So one of the things we want to teach, because having them memorize things that they can look up online is ridiculous. Right? Because now you can look it up online.
They can look at Wikipedia and just copy paste.
Right. So here's the problem, right? Wikipedia is not a good source. So we have to help them know what's a good source, right? Fake news versus real news. We have to help them know how to think critically about the problems and to know what the real sources are and who to trust before they can even get to an understanding of social issues. That if we could spend more time on that in school, that is a huge, huge important topic for the future.
I know some private schools there started showing this CNN 10. Within 10 minutes they summarize it. But again, I talk with few schools also, but I think they are under the pressure about we need to teach kids science, math, English, because this is how they are getting grant from governments and from state government, federal government. So any change in curriculum, it can impact the students' performance.
It is really hard. So one of the courses I teach at Stanford is curriculum construction, and it's really hard to work within those boundaries, but you have wiggle room as a teacher. If the hurricane is going on and you're not talking about it and they're seeing it on the news, you've got to stop what you're doing and talk about it. Nothing is more important than helping them understand their world.
Denise, thanks for stopping by. I wish we had more time, but some other time. Thank you very much.
Thank you.